we are in the grip of a rental and homeless crisis.
Plan to help solve the housing crisis just doesn't stack up.
Well, housing affordability is now at its worst level.
Do these news headlines about home ownership struggles sound familiar? Home ownership is seen as the pinnacle of wealth by Australians and New Zealanders. But research shows that fewer people than ever before are actually able to purchase a home. And those that are doing so at a massive cost.
Melbourne's market is soaring once again. As finance editor Chris Kohler explains, the value of a standard home is now jumping by more than $1,000 a week.
Okay, but could news outlets be exaggerating? You might think that rising home ownership costs make sense with the rise in cost of living. But what if I told you just 1% of taxpayers own nearly a quarter of all Australian investment properties? Yes, you heard me correctly. Do us both a favor and subscribe to the channel, because today we're going to be looking at how 1% of Australians is making housing worse for just about everybody. As far back as November 2016, then opposition leader Anthony Albanese was quoted on Channel 9 saying this:
on an issue that Australians know is an issue for their kids and their grandkids. They're being frozen out of the market. We're in danger of developing a society whereby some people are able to buy their 6th, 7th, 8th home, but people trying to get into the housing market to buy their first home simply aren't able to. There were excesses in the way that capital gains tax and negative gearing are applied, but they've ruled out one of the measures which is necessary, which is to cut back on those excesses.
This was in reference to the impact of negative gearing, which is essentially the borrowing of money to buy an income-producing asset that produces less than is needed to pay for and maintain the asset in the short term. Do you see the issue? Maybe not at first. The issue lies in mixing personal income tax with property tax when they don't really correlate at all. Look at it this way. Imagine reducing taxes for certain people if they bought health supplements or vitamin pills. The first few years would look great. Health metrics across the country would be boosted incredibly so. People would become healthier, and the overall health costs to the government would reduce, which would be exponentially good for the government in the long term. This makes a lot of sense at first. It even sounds like a good initiative. But soon enough, people will buy vitamin pills just to reduce their taxes and throw them away. I mean, let's be honest, you'd rather go to Macca's, wouldn't you? This would lead to inefficiency and wasted resources. But hey, that's not too bad. However, years later, as cost of living increases, right now, more and more people would actually want to buy vitamin pills just to simply reduce their taxes. And these would lead to vitamin pills and health supplements actually getting more expensive. If we can say, the supply was limited, like land, some people would start even buying in bulk and trying to resell them at a higher value. Does that sound familiar? People who actually want and actually need vitamin pills can still get them. For example, first home buyers, but they're doing so at an inflated price. But then it becomes a market of its own. Mass hoarders of these pills start to appear, investors, for example. And you see businesses start to form around this health supplement industry. Real estate agents, investors, dealers, financiers, nutritionists. This is what makes it hard to unwind. Which is how we get to the problem now, which is that negative gearing is only one of the factors that have increased property prices. It is not really clear whether getting rid of it will actually lower property prices significantly. In fact, it has been proven that this removal leads to a rise in rent in the medium term, which further dents university students and other potential first home buyers and young couples. And if you've checked out my 2024 house property predictions right here, this is made by actual banks, and you can see why property is still a good investment to most people. New Zealand recently took a stand against negative gearing via Jacinda Ardern's Labour government, who introduced a new law limiting property investors from deducting mortgage interest from their taxable income.
We are trying to tilt the playing field towards first home buyers.
However, such a positive approach to try and break down the incentives of current property owners didn't bode well, and they lost the next election in unsurprising fashion. If the Australian government were to get rid of negative gearing and discourage investment properties, another question would be, who would be the people that would house the hundreds of thousands of incoming migrants every single year? This is on top of students and school leavers. These people want to rent, not buy. The government tax incentives is what makes property such a safe and sought after investment. And winding back these incentives are going to be near high impossible until you have a majority that is so much larger than those who currently own property. But to be honest, knowledge about the topic is the first step to putting yourself in a position to make decisive decisions about where you want to be in the property market. And so, if you've learned anything from this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. FIDI is something I've been working on for a while now, and I want to make 2024 a really good year for the channel. So comment any ideas down below or topics that you'd like to see me discuss. A key focus for me over the next couple months is definitely community building. So I'd love to get in touch with you guys and talk more. But until then, I'll see you at the next video. I'll put a link to my 2024 property price predictions below.